Can I get sober for a little bit and then go back to just drinking and partying on the weekends? I've got lots of people out there that have an opinion on this. And if you have an opinion on this, share it in the comment section. My experience is that this doesn't work. You're not, absolutely not. You can try it. I've seen lots of people try it. I have not seen anybody try it successfully. So everybody has their own journey. I think this is probably one of the reasons why pretty much everybody relapses. They think that they can go back to drinking and partying part-time, or it's not going to be the same as it was last time. I'm just going to drink on the weekends. I'm just going to drink. I'll only drink a little bit. I'll only drink at weddings. I'll only drink at birthday parties. I'll only drink. It doesn't work. So as a general rule, it's typically not recommended to return to partying or using drugs or alcohol after achieving sobriety. Addiction is a chronic disease that often involves compulsive behavior patterns, and returning to partying or using drugs or alcohol, even just a little, can increase the risk of a relapse. And it's progressive too. And I've seen this happen where people start drinking and it takes a while for it to progress. It doesn't always. A lot of times when people relapse and they go back, they're back at it, like back to where they started within days or weeks. I've also seen people go back to drinking and partying and the progression is much slower. I don't know why. Sometimes it progresses more quickly than others. However, I've seen it progress slowly. I've seen it progress quickly. It always progresses though, 100% of the time. And I've got a few stories. I'll share a few stories here in a little bit. But drinking even just a little bit, you're setting yourself on the path to full-blown relapse. It can also trigger cravings and make it harder to maintain sobriety over the long term. That's interesting. I've seen people that have relapsed after having 8 years of sobriety, 17 years of sobriety. There's a friend I know, I'll say his name's Brent. And Brent was 17 years sober. He was on the board of directors of a nonprofit. I was on the same board as him. He was working a solid 12-step program at one point. He shared at meetings. He did lots of service work. He helped a lot of guys. And then he relapsed, and it was like he had so much trouble staying sober. I don't even know if he's clean and sober right now, actually. So he relapsed. He ends up back in rehab. He's out. Then he's in a halfway house. Then he's back in rehab. So just that vicious cycle. I have another sponsee that I'm currently working with or sponsoring, and he was sober for 10 years, and he had a solid 10 years. And then he thought that he graduated from the program. And so he thought he could just drink and party on the weekends, and it progressed. And for him, it progressed slowly. And he's a successful guy, I guess. Professionally, he's successful. He's making money. He's not in the gutter. He's not in jail. He's not losing his license. He is having trouble in relationships, and he ended up going back to drinking. And then he's doing a little bit of cocaine here and a little bit of cocaine there. And it progressed very slowly, but he didn't lose everything. And he's super smart. And so I think he was out for about 10 years before the shit hit the fan again. Slow but sure death for him. And then he got sober. He was sober for a year, working a solid program. Boom, relapsed. Sober, working a program. Boom, relapsed. Okay, now he's clean and sober again, and he's been sober since January 1st. And the suggestions, and I think this is what happens too. He thinks he knows everything. He's a smart guy. And this is not his first rodeo. It's not his first time through. He thinks he knows everything. So his commitment is 90 meetings in 90 days, but he ain't going to 90 meetings in 90 days. He is sponsoring a couple of guys, so that's good. That's probably going to help him stay sober, but he's not going to 90 meetings in 90 days. He's not super connected in the AA community, as connected as I think he should be, my opinion. My opinion is just my experience. And, my experience is that people don't have to work a perfect program. Everybody does it a different way. There are suggestions, and the suggestions are go to 90 meetings in 90 days, go to a meeting every day for 90 days, get a sponsor, work the steps, get a home group, get a service commitment, start sponsoring people. And if you do all of those things, the likelihood that you stay sober is higher. And if you do more of those things, just because you don't do all of those things or one or two of those things doesn't mean that you're automatically going to relapse, But my experience, the more of those things, the more suggestions you take, the more you realize that your best thinking got you where you are today, the more you realize that the higher the likelihood is that you're going to stay clean and sober. There's also things such as called controlled drinking. And actually, when I was married, I remember my now ex-wife, Jennifer, she took us to what I thought was marriage counseling. And we go to this marriage counselor, her name was Jean Collins, and she's great. I love Jean. And we start talking about my drinking. And I'm like, whoa, why are we talking about my drinking? We're not here to talk about my drinking. We're here to talk about the problems in our marriage, which of course were caused by my drinking. And Jean, I remember she said, well, if you don't think you're an alcoholic, then why don't you stop? Can you stop for 90 days? And I was like, sure, no problem. And this is before I got clean and sober. I always say that relapse is not part of my story. And I don't really think this is relapsing as part of my story because I didn't my plan was to get sober for 90 days. I did get sober for 90 days. I realized after the fact that I was taking pain pills though, because I had a hand surgery and somehow I was able to get a hold of pain pills. And after the 90 days, I went back to drinking. And Jean said, oh, you're drinking again, really? And I was like, yeah, duh. I said, I'm going to be sober for 90 days. It's 90 days. And so I got back to drinking. And she said, well, why don't we do some controlled drinking here? So I would say this controlled drinking is similar to partying on the weekends. I was sober for a little bit. I was sober for 90 days. For a person that drinks all the time, being sober for 90 days is a long time. And so sober for 90 days. And then I get into controlled drinking and we agree that my controlled drinking will be 2 to 4 drinks per week, 2 to 4 drinks, 2 to 4 times per week. So that was the deal. And what I found is that my drinks became much bigger. Like I would go to Total Wine and I'd buy these beers that were like 18% and 32 ounces. So that, you drink 4 of those, it's pretty much lights out. So that's my experience. That's what happens. That's what I've seen. People, you can try controlled drinking, and really drug addiction, alcoholism, it's a self-diagnosed disease. And what I mean, or what that means, is that you have to realize that you have a problem. And it doesn't matter what other people think and what other people say. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you feel like you have a problem, and it's self-diagnosed. So I realized I was back at it right away. And I didn't really try to get clean and sober that first round with Jean Collins. It was about a year later when my now ex-wife Jennifer left me. And that was kind of when I got clean and sober. There's another guy that I remember early on when I first got clean and sober. His name is Ray. I'll call him Ray. And Ray was clean. We went to a meeting. It was, I think, once a week. And there was a guy named Steve Passo who died of ALS. And we went to this meeting every week, and I would see Ray, and he was around. He was doing the deal. He was sober. He was doing good. I saw him at meetings. I saw him at recovery related parties and events and activities and stuff like that. And then in 2017, I remember I saw him. I hadn't seen him in a few years. And he was also a triathlete, so training for triathlons. And I bumped into him and he said, oh yeah, I'm no longer in the deal. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm back to drinking. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that's probably not good. And that's probably not going to end well. And then in 2021, 2022, I heard from Ray because he was back at it. He was doing pills. He was drinking. He was a freaking disaster. His life was a disaster. His wife left him. His wife and kids left him. He lost his job, like everything. He lost everything. And he wanted to get clean and sober again. So I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen so many times. People, they think they're okay. They think they got this. They think they can go out and just start drinking again a little bit, or pills. That was my addiction, was pills. So I can just drink, or cocaine was my deal. So I can just drink, or whatever it may be. It never works. That's been my experience. However, if you're watching this video and you want to go out there and you want to, I guess, test the waters again, and you want to go out and drink a little bit and just see if you can do it, then you're going to have to go out and do it. Like, there's really no way. There's nothing I can say that's going to convince you that you're an alcoholic and that you're never going to be normal again. It's just the pickle and the cucumber. When a cucumber becomes a pickle, there's no way that it can go back to becoming a cucumber. Like, it's done. Same thing, alcoholic, drug addict. Once you're a drug addict, you're always a drug addict. Once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. You're never going to be able to go back to drinking like a regular person. That's been my experience. You can try it. And if you think that it's possible, then you're probably going to have to try it, because it's just kind of up to you. What I know for me is that it's not worth it. Like, my life is so good today. The relationships, professionally, personally, just everything in my life. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I feel great. I'm not an asshole. I think I'm not an asshole. I try not to be an asshole. I do lots of service work. Life is so good, man. I mean, I was at my cousin's wedding last week. I was dancing, making a fool of myself. Really? Okay, I'm making a fool of myself, but nobody cares. Nobody cares. I couldn't do that when I was drinking. So life is amazing, and it's too big of a risk to drink, to even let me just try it out a little bit. No, for me, I don't ever want to just try it out a little bit, because if I try it out a little bit, my personality, the way I am, there's no way. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. So if you've struggled with addiction in the past and have achieved sobriety, it is important to prioritize your recovery and continue to engage in behaviors that support your sobriety. This may include avoiding situations where drugs or alcohol are present, seeking support from a therapist or a support group, and building a network of sober friends and activities that promote health and wellness. So my life today, I get up in the morning, I got my morning routine. I love my morning routine. I get up, I pray, I meditate, I do breath work, I do a gratitude list, I share it with my friends in recovery. I have a girlfriend. She is a normie. She drinks, but guess what? She doesn't really drink, like, ever. I don't even think I've seen her drink. Maybe one time. I think she drank one time when we were at the airport before we went to Tulum. But like most people realize, I mean, alcohol is just, it's the solution. And people, especially as you get older, you typically don't feel good after drinking alcohol. Now, some people like to drink a glass or two of wine or beer or whatever it may be, but I surround myself with people that typically don't drink. I got lots of friends in recovery, and mind, body, spirit. When people are focused on the mind, body, and spirit, drinking alcohol excessively does not support the mind, body, and spirit, does not support recovery, does not promote wellness. So ultimately, the decision to return to partying or using drugs or alcohol after achieving sobriety is a personal one, but it is important to carefully consider the potential risks and the consequences before making any type of a decision like that. So what I would say is, if you're thinking about drinking, drugging, you want to just test the waters, talk to somebody about it. Talk to your sponsor, talk to your loved one, talk to your therapist. Say, hey, I really think I want to go back out and I want to try this thing again. I mean, regardless, actually talking about it out loud to somebody else will be helpful. And you might make the decision to go back out and try it again on your own anyways. But regardless, make sure you let some people know and you fill them in on what you're doing and what your plan is. And then you can make your decision and go from there.
If you found this video to be of value, be sure to like it, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos, leave a comment if you have a question, if you've got something to say. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism. So if you or someone you know is struggling, be sure to reach out to us. You can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, or our information is in the comments section below. And we provide everything from detox, inpatient, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services. So either we'll be able to help you, or we'll be able to refer you to people or treatment centers that might be a better fit. So I will see you in the next video.